this whole thing is about Jesus showing the problem with this type of religion. Is it good for her to give her money to a den of robbers? He just called him a den of robbers. These leaders we found out a few weeks ago, the religious leaders, the people that were in charge of the church or of Judaism at the temple, they were all just about show. It was all just outward show, and Jesus calls them on it. And they don't like it at all right? They don't like getting called. They're the pretenders, and they were accusing Jesus of being a pretender. You're pretending like you're God, but you're not God. And so Jesus turns it around and says, no, wait, you're the pretenders. You're the ones pretending to be something that you aren't. You're doing one thing and saying something else. And I can't handle that. I don't like that, right? It's corruption. And what I want you to understand is just the flavor of the corruption that they have going into this passage here, right? So last week, that section was pretty short in Mark. It's actually more expansive in the book of Matthew. So if you've got a Bible, I'd like you just real quick to turn to Matthew. Let's turn to chapter 23. There are a few Bibles, but I'll throw it on the screen so you can just kind of follow along, all right? And kind of see what it says. But this is, if somebody says the stuff that Jesus said here, if somebody said this stuff to you, you would be feeling like, man, he just ripped me a new one. All right, so it's Matthew 23. It says, Then Jesus said to the crowd and to his disciples, The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for people to see. They make their phylacteries, which are these tassels, wide, and the tassels on their garments long. They love the places of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and be called rabbi by others. But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. Nor are you to call instructors, for you to have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And then he goes on, follow this. Now he really goes. You thought it was bad already. Now he really puts up the flame. Woe to you! Woe to you. That's a bad sign. When somebody says woe to you, you got to be wondering, something's coming. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. Whoa. Woe to you, blind guides. You say if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing, but anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by that oath. You blind fools, which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing, but anyone who swears by the gift on the altar is bound by that oath. You blind men, what is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore, anyone who swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it, and anyone who swears by the temple swears by it and by the one who dwells in it. And anyone who swears by heaven swears by God's throne and by the one who sits on it. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, like justice, mercy, faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. By this time, they might be feeling a little bad. They might be feeling, I feel a bit attacked. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside also will be clean. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside it's full of bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. And it goes on. He goes down verse 33. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore, I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Come to them. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. Here's the point. You just saw all that. The Pharisees are the religious leaders, the religious establishment of this time, and they're bad. They're bad. Here's what happens when there's not true and genuine faith, true and genuine spirit within. Boy, I'll tell you, I loved singing that song this morning when it's Rest on Us, the Spirit. I love when there's a genuine change in your life, when there's a genuine change, when you have really been transformed by God, when that's really what's being offered through the church, when it's really being offered through the people within that church don't need symbols. They don't need temples. They don't need long robes that make you look holy and make you look righteous. It's not about the outward show anymore. It's not about having gold on the side of the building. When you see a place, don't take this wrong, but when you see anyone who it's all about show, any religion that's all about show, it's about statues, it's about pictures, it's about all kinds of symbols. The reason those symbols are abounding is because there's nothing on the inside. It's all just nothing true and spiritual on the inside, and so you make up for it by creating an external appearance. And we see that in religion all the time. And so here in Mark chapter 12, verse 20, it says, they devour widows. This is from last week. They devour widows' houses, and for a show make lengthy prayers. Notice how it puts those together. They devour widows' houses. You go, what in the world does that mean? What, they get really hungry? They're devouring widows' houses? How do they devour widows' houses? And then it also says they devour widows' houses, and for a show, they make lengthy prayers, right? They're not having lengthy prayers. Now, is a lengthy prayer bad? No. It's good to have a lengthy prayer. It's good to spend a lot of time talking to God. It's good to spend, if you got a lot to talk to God about, that's great. Talk to God and spend time with Him, but not for a show. These guys are praying for hours in front of people, not because they want to talk to God, but because they want people to think they're talking to God and makes them look important. Right? I'm like, well, geez. And the Old Testament just has a bunch of passages about our responsibility to take care of widows, to take care of orphans, right? That people are vulnerable in our society. The Bible in the Old Testament is all about, hey, take care. I mean, they didn't have Social Security, right? They didn't have like special programs that were there for widows, women that they lost their husband. They didn't have anything set up. They didn't have any of that. And so the Bible makes a lot of statements, about take care of women that are widows. Take care of the vulnerable, the orphan who doesn't have a daddy, and we have that today, right? We have that today. So what do? These are people that are desperate sometimes and they need protecting. And so what do the religious leaders do to these people? These people that are vulnerable, these widows. You've known people that have struggled. They're widows. Maybe they lost their husband. Now they don't have a lot. And you're going over and you're mowing their grass. And maybe you're bringing over some groceries or doing whatever to kind of take care of that person, right? Because you care about them. You love that person. You don't want them to be suffering. You don't want them to hurt. And maybe their family's not coming over and their family's not helping them. Maybe they don't have any family. And you're coming over and you're like, boy, what would God have me do? Honestly, I'm honest about it. What would God have me do? God would have me help. So I don't have a lot, but boy, I can give a little bit, and I can help out this woman. I can clean her gutters out, or I can do something to help this woman. And now you see the Pharisees we just talked about in Matthew, and it says they devour widows' houses for a show. They make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely, right? So what we find is that in their own records, the Pharisees, this is how they treated women that were, the Bible says you should take care of them. This is how they actually treated them, right? Widows, they didn't hold really any power in court. So a woman's husband would die, and then she doesn't have any court thing. And so husbands, a lot of times what they would do is they would set up with an attorney, all right, with a lawyer, and put somebody in charge of the estate, right? Because they didn't think that she would be able to do it, and this time she might not have been able to. And so they would put an attorney in charge, a Jewish legal expert. You know who the Jewish legal experts were in this time? They were Pharisees. They were Pharisees. They were scribes. They were the legal experts. Not only they were the legal experts, not only they were the lawyers of the Bible, but they were just the lawyers in general. So what they would do is men would say, I'm going to put the estate, and I'm going to make sure it's protected. I'm going to trust it with this man who is a man of God, and he's going to take this and he's going to take care of this woman. And it says here what they would do is it said they would devour widows' houses. Eventually what they would do is they were all about money. They were all about getting as much money as they could, and so they would work out deals. Now they've got control of the property. And so then they would work out and say, well, you know what, you need to pay me for my services, and you don't have any money, and the only way you can pay me for your services is you need to sign the property now is going to belong to me. And so now the property is mine, and they would figure out ways to get rid of the woman out of the house. It was just a nightmare, right? They found ways to trick a widow out of her property. They mismanaged the property on purpose. They take it as a pledge for debt. And so it makes sense that when Jesus goes into the temple, he says, my house is supposed to be a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of robbers, right? Because the people that are in there, those guys that are religious leaders, you're a bunch of thieves. You're stealing women's property, the most vulnerable. Doesn't that make you mad? Man, that's frustrating. I've seen that in real life. People take advantage of somebody like that. Oh, it makes my blood boil. And so here it says that they devour widows' houses. And the idea is that the more religious you are, this is the way people look at religion. They look at religion and say, well, the more religious you are, the less judgment you'll have, right? So, why is that person going to be good when they get to heaven, right? When he gets to the gate and he knocks on pearly gates and says, hey, let me in. Who's going to get in first? The religious one. No! This says the opposite. The Bible teaches the opposite. The religious one, it says these men will be punished most severely. These religious people who are all about rules, they're bilking the system, they're milking women for everything they've got. Boy, if you put your faith in religion, you've got a problem. If you have put your faith in religion, in doing things, in being good, in all of the rituals that we have. Well, I'm going to be baptized, and I'm going to do this ritual, and I'm going to do this ritual, and this ritual, and then I'm going to make sure I'm here every day, and I'm going to make sure I give a certain amount of money. And if you think that helps you, you've got a problem, because the Bible teaches the exact opposite. They'll be punished, and for good reason, because this is disgusting. What they're doing to people is disgusting. It's just disgusting. You got to be pretty low down to do this. This is the guy that when we see him now as a group of men at sunrise, we want to take him behind the shed, because this is bad. This is bad. And so look what it says. It goes on and it says, Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. We find out another that it's everything that she has in another passage. It's everything that she's got. All right? And this takes place in a place, I don't know if I got the picture of it. It takes place in a place called see the number 9? I don't know if you can see it. That's the court of women. So everybody can kind of go into that place. And in there are 13 different offering boxes. Right? Right? So there's 13 boxes, and they look like, they come out of the wall, and they look like trumpets. So they're like big on the outside, and then they go down, and they're all for different things. And so there's 13 options of how you can give money to this corrupt system. Now, I don't know if you've read through this before. Maybe you've been in church a long time. Some of you have been in church a long time, and so you've heard this thing preached a lot. And you know what they always tell me when I read this? They say, that woman, she gave the right way. And the Pharisees that had all the money, they were giving the wrong way because they gave out of their abundance. But she gave everything that she had. So bless her. She is good. She's going to be blessed. That's baloney. That's not what this is about at all. That's not what this is about at all. What this is about is the fact that this is let me tell you this. If somebody comes to our church and they've got $10 to their name, do you think that I should tell them, you know what you need to do if you want God to bless you, give every single penny you've got to the church? You think that's a good idea? Do you think that was a good idea in this time? It wasn't even what was required or what was even desired. But the system had created a system where this woman is so oppressed by the system that she's supposed to give everything that she's got. This whole thing is about Jesus showing the problem with this type of religion. That you've got the poor who even now is being oppressed by this religious system by being... They're not even telling her. The system tells her that she has to give her last penny. She's not going to be able to eat tonight. She's going to be homeless. There's nothing for her to eat, but give everything. That's what the religious system tells you, and that's corrupt. That's corrupt. That's wrong. That's wrong. You don't treat people like that. You don't treat people like that. I'm a little fired up about this one because I've seen this. Is it a good idea for this woman to give her money to a corrupt system? Is it good for her to give her money to a den of robbers? He just called him a den of robbers. And so here are the things that it doesn't say. Well, I think it's important to look at what it does. It doesn't say in this passage that she even believes in Jesus. There's nothing in this passage that says she's a Christian. It doesn't say she's a believer. It doesn't say anything about that. She can take that off the table. It doesn't say that she went home after this and there was a pile of money waiting for her. Right? That's what Robert Tilton would tell you. Right? Some of your online TBN preachers, well, you just give me all your money and then God's going to bless you and there'll be a pile of money at your front door. Doesn't say that. It doesn't say she went home and had that. It doesn't say to do what she did. It doesn't tell you in the passage you should do what she just did. Give all of your money, everything you've got, your last penny, to the religious system. It doesn't say that at all. It doesn't say that the rich people who put their money in did something wrong. Didn't say that they shouldn't be giving. It didn't say that they had. Now it does impose that the way they're giving shows bad attitudes, but not that everybody did, right? Or that their motives were they were doing it for show. Jesus doesn't say the widow gave the right amount. Doesn't say that in here. Doesn't say that the rich man had too much left when it was done. Doesn't say that. Friends, this passage is a continuation of the condemnation of the religious leaders that devour widows in verse 40. It's explained to you. It said, you Pharisees, you devour widows' houses. And now, in the next couple verses, it says, this is how you do it. And we're watching a woman being devoured right now in front of us. So who is she in the story? Who is this woman in the story? She's not the Christian. She's a victim of corrupt religion, is what she is. She's a victim of corrupt religion. Again, do you think Jesus wanted her to give her money to survive, the money she needed to survive, to a corrupt religious system that has an attitude and a regular pattern of bilking women out of money so that religious leaders can get rich? So you go on TV and you watch the guy on TV, and he's a multi-millionaire. He lives in a house, $100 million, and he's asking a woman to give the last money she's got and saying, if you do, I'll give you this little handkerchief here, and this handkerchief, I've prayed over it, and so somehow you're going to be blessed by that. You know, I could just blow my nose in one and it'd bless you just as much. Is this biblical? If you're broke, send me your money and God will open the floodgates. This is the heartbeat of false religion. It's what we see today as prosperity gospel, which isn't the gospel at all. Prosperity gospel says this: it's all based on what you give. You have faith and you give, and then God's going to somehow bless you because you gave everything that you have. And it's got to be money, right? If you try to give them the piano up here on the stage, they don't want it, right? Because nobody wants it, is what I'm finding out. Think about this. If Jesus wanted them to give like this woman gave, why not tell Judas, take all the money that we have from the treasury and put it in one of these trumpet-shaped things? Doesn't say that at all. And we even know Judas is stealing the money. See, true faith cares for widows. True faith cares for the poor. You ever watch TBN at 3 in the morning? Had a chimichanga, you can't sleep. Right? And it's either chimichanga, it's either TBN at night, or you're going to have to watch an infomercial for the Miracle Blade knives, right? They cut aluminum cans, and then you can peel an apple with them. But religion that demands money for blessing, demands money, give, and then, because that's not the way the gospel works. I want you to understand the gospel works. The gospel works in that God blesses you, God gives to you, and we give out of thanks for what God gives. There's no quid pro quo here. There's no, I'm going to do this for you, God, and then on the backside you're going to do something for me. We're going to make a deal. There's no deal here. The deal is Jesus gave everything, and you, because he's gracious to you, because he's nice to you, because he loves you, he decides, you know what? I'm going to give everything to you, and all I ask in return is that you trust me and that you be faithful to me. Now, am I saying that we don't give? No, it's great to give. But not because you think you're buying something, not because you think you're earning something, we need to use some common sense. This passage to me is common sense. Look what it says. It goes on. Religion, it says in chapter 13, verse 1, I'm running out of time. Here we go. As Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." Right? In other words, again, it's what's on the outside. It's not looking at the system on the inside of the deal. He's just ripped a new one for the religious leaders and for the system as a whole. They're corrupt and they're taking these women for all that they've got. But boy, the building sure looks good. It looks good. It's so good. The outside is covered in gold on the temple, so much so that when the sun shines from this right angle, you can't even see the temple because it's so bright. It looks like you're looking at the sun. And the disciples are, man, it looks so good on the outside. What did Jesus say about the outside? Whitewashed tombs. The tomb looks good, but inside it's rotted bones. Right? God cares about what's on the inside. And what's on the inside here is not good, and it's seeping out in the way they treat people and in the way they treat the poor. It says as Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." Again, even the disciples, they're looking at the outside. They're looking at the outside of Judaism, the outside of religion. And Jesus says, "Do you see these great buildings? Let me tell you something about these great buildings that you're so impressed with. Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." Don't be impressed with what's on the outside. You know, if it was doing the right thing, if it was genuine on the inside, if it really loved God, if it really served God, if it was really about bringing people to Jesus, if it was really treating the poor and treating those that had need, if it was really loving people the way it should, if it was really not about selfishness but about serving other people, then it would be different. But the inside of this system is bad, and you need to use your common sense and know that it's bad. And God's judgment on that is that just a little bit after that, this is 70 AD, this place is destroyed. God wipes this place down. It's not there anymore. Even now, the temple's not there. Even now, there's Dome of the Rock up there, right? Muslim. Got wiped out. And Jesus just says, listen, the whole thing's coming down. And I guess what I want to say is that for some of us, you've built up a really good religious system in your life, right? It looks good on the outside. I've got a really good religious system, and so I make sure that everything looks good. It's gold on the outside. It's pretty. I don't let anybody see what's really on the inside. God sees what's on the inside. They didn't see what was on the inside, but God sees what's on the inside, and He says, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. What I require is that you love God, that you serve God. Right? Giving is good. Being robbed is not. I don't know if you've ever been robbed before. Being robbed is not bad, or it's not good. Being robbed is a bad thing. Giving to the poor, giving because God. So if God speaks to you and says, "Yes, I want you to give. I want you to give in this way," and I want you, then that's great. That's great. But not because you're going to earn something or you're going to earn salvation, or all of a sudden God's going to say, "Woo! Boy, I'm impressed with that one. All right. You know what? I want that person on my team." It doesn't work that way. God says, you're a sinner and I love you. I'm crazy about you. And in spite of the fact that you're not good, I've died for you and I love you and I will impute my righteousness into you. And all I ask is that you trust me and that you follow me and you listen to me and you serve me with all of your heart and with all your soul and all your mind. Give to bless. Don't give to receive. Give to bless. These people were giving to receive. Right? God, I thank you so much for letting us look at your word today. And God, I ask that you would help us to take this and to evaluate our own hearts. Evaluate the system that we're in. Are we in a religious system, God, or are we sold out for God? Are we surrendered to you? God, what's our motivation for what we do? God, you've given us some signs. How do we treat the poor? How do we treat those that are hurting? Are we about serving our neighbor, or are we just about serving ourselves? God, help us to be honest with that. And the answer is to always turn back to you and say, God, I give myself to you. Change my heart. Make me the kind of person you want me to be. God, I surrender to you and to your transforming power. Oh, God, I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And I've tasted too many temptations. I've been chased by a demon hound. Lord, I just can't be satisfied, no.